Now we are starting the press conference by Prime Minister Kishida. Prime Minister will have the remarks. Prime Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And today, the fiscal 2024 budget and tax system-related bills were enacted at the Diet. I'd like to appreciate what stakeholders have done to make it happen, including government response to disasters. Government is going to carry out important policies at its full speed. The 2024 budget contains a fund of 1 trillion yen that will be carried out quite flexibly. To make it happen, we try to understand the needs of the people in the affected regions. We'd like to give consideration to the levels of damage. Then we'll proceed with the establishment of reconstruction fund for the damaged areas. The budget and tax laws to realize the income growth, overcoming the price hikes. There are plenty of different measures incorporated in the budget and tax laws. Today, I'd like to talk about the way to go from a broader perspective. Then let me give an explanation on the topic. And going forward, the government will make a full-fledged effort to realize the Political Fund Control Act on various issues concerning the politics and the fund. I'd like to give careful explanation and respond to the questions from the reporters. I was elected to the lower house for the first time. It's been 30 years. I have observed the movement of deflationary economy during this period. In the meantime, there is a mainstream discussion, and that is companies' product improvement will raise wages. But as a matter of fact, we have seen a period in which corporate earnings went up the most, but the workers' wages didn't grow likewise. I became the Prime Minister of Japan in October 2021. The new form of capitalism was suggested by myself. A good cycle of growth and distribution, a good cycle of wages and prices. To realize those things is the most important mission for me as a Prime Minister of this country. So that means, first off, the wages go up. As a result, the people's consumption can be activated, growing companies' earnings. Taking advantage of the increased earnings, the companies can carry out investment to grow. Productivity of companies will improve as a result. Then the wages can grow on a sustainable basis. A good cycle can be realized in this process. Japan was in the midst of the cost-cut-oriented economy, but we can move this country's economy to the growth-oriented new stage, economic stage. First, to make it happen, we have to eradicate the long-standing deflationary mindset here in Japan. Then we have to change the direction of society so that people take it granted that they can have more wages. We have to change the mindset all at once. I have a very strong conviction, to realize a good cycle of income and growth, wage hikes and corporate expenditures and startup innovation. Then we have carried out the drastic measures to expand all of them at the same time. In line with that time, I called for very patiently a new government-private sector collaboration. Right now, we are going to overcome the deflation completely, and this is a historic and once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us, and the opportunity is coming at hand. The companies increased the wages in the spring wage negotiations greater than last year. Then the initiative of the company and labor on the wage hike is changing quite a lot. Companies' capital expenditures are hitting an all-time high. Many companies are trying to do business on the offensive, and we have seen the large-scale strategic investment deals coming from abroad. The Nikkei stock index is hitting an all-time high level. The market is highly evaluating the transformation evaluation. The main actors are retail investors investing through new NISA program. Looking at the momentum of the innovation of this kind, some people think that Japan is going to declare the end of the deflation, but still, there is still a long way for us to go to overcome the deflation spiral. Whether we can take advantage of this opportunity or we might go back to the past, it depends on the action we're going to take. Whether or not we can pass on the wealthy, rich Japan to the next generations. And I believe that we are facing a showdown coming for the first time in tens of years. This is my basic recognition about the state of the Japanese economy. So therefore, on top of wage hikes in spring, starting in June, the income and resident tax reduction was 40,000 yen. They decided to support the people's disposable income. There is a government-private sector collaboration, then so that the disposable income can increase greater than wage hikes, and then so that the people can really feel that they are making the more incomes. People think it is quite natural for them to see increasing the wages, and we like to create such a mindset accepted in the whole society.
As we activate the virtuous cycle of prices and wages and make a transition to a new stage of economy, the most important key is to increase wages and strengthen earning power of small and medium enterprises, for which 70% of all employees work. We are fully executing comprehensive and multifaceted measures. First, appropriate price pass-through. Within supply chains, not only for large companies, but also for the small and medium companies, profits must be properly distributed. In order to make it happen, we will take all the possible measures to realize the appropriate pass-through of labor cost. We are taking the rigorous measures against acts violating Subcontract Act, which in the way of the wage increase. We have issued recommendations to 8 companies since January. We will ramp up the execution, including enhancing the guidelines of the Subcontract Act. With regard to anti-monopoly law, the Fair Trade Commission in March did something unusual, which is to disclose 10 company names whose efforts are not sufficient. We are reported that the Commission will take measures to probe transactions to see if the guidelines for labor cost pass-through are thoroughly followed and to improve transactions. Secondly, detailed support for wage increase. With regard to tax system to promote wage increase, this will include loss-making companies. And this will cover 80% of SMEs. The unprecedented carryover deduction measures are starting in April. For workers in medical and welfare industries, which accounts for 14% of the workers, in order to make sure they do feel the wage increase, we have introduced the new system. In order to increase the wages for construction and logistics industries, we will largely increase the wage for labor. And also there are bills to reflect that to the subcontract, and also for the wage increase for the truck drivers. The bills have been submitted. Thirdly, enhancing the measures to address the challenge of labor shortage for SMEs. For SMEs, We are making intensive support for labor-saving investment and automation investment, and also improvement of labor productivity through reskilling, and also the system to utilize the techniques and know-how of the senior generations will be supported. The fourth point is the support for workers. For minimum wage, we have the target to achieve 1,500 yen by the mid-2030s. We are making the utmost effort so that we can achieve the target even earlier. For part-timers and non-regular workers, we have the challenge of so-called annual income barrier. More than 200,000 people are planning to use the new support system. In order for as many people to overcome the barrier, without a budget constraint, we continue to expand our support. In order to support young parents, we are expanding children allowance and alleviate the burden of higher education, expanding child care allowance, and also improving child care leave benefit. Those are the challenges that have been identified for such a long time but have not been realized. Those measures will be starting. In order to restore the earning power of Japan, including small and medium enterprises, what is important is the low cost and resilient energy. With the import of energy, we are seeing the outflow of dozens of trillions of yen overseas. That current status has to be changed. It is important to secure energy security that leads to decarbonization and have an energy system that can strengthen domestic earning power. It is essential to implement national strategies to make a transition. Within fiscal 2024, we are revising basic energy plan. We are making intensive discussions to support the plan. We are developing and going beyond the GX promotion strategy into GX national strategy. Last week, first time in 17 years, Bank of Japan changed its monetary policies. For more than a decade, unprecedented monetary easing policies continued. We are entering a new phase, and at the same time, in order to make sure we have a positive economic move, it is appropriate, we think, to maintain the accommodative financial environment. In order to completely overcome deflation, we are entering the most critical moment. The government and Bank of Japan make sure that we continue the close collaboration. Last but not least, I would like to make 2 commitments to overcome the inflation. First, this year, we make sure that we will achieve income above inflation. And next year and beyond, we make sure that the wage increase above inflation takes hold. That is all from myself. Thank you. Now we are going to take questions from the press. If you have a question, please raise your hand and come to the microphone. And please state your name and your affiliation. Please ask 1 question per person. We are taking the managing media. We have the question from NHK.
This is Aizawa from NHK. Prime Minister Kishida then talked about the current economic situation. Then this is the major showdown to overcome the deflation spiral. On that matter specifically, which timing do you have in mind in carrying out government policies to make it happen? For example, And in then June, then summer, afterwards, the income tax deduction is carried out, or by then this year. Do you have any timing in mind on the target timing on those measures? And you said that the government is going to take a comprehensive look at the economic indicators, but at the end of the day, I wonder Prime Minister Kishida is going to make a final judgment, or are you going to come up with a system so that experts can make objective confirmation about end of the deflation? Thank you. In terms of macroeconomy analysis, that's economy and fiscal policies, and both private sector government experts will look at various economic indicators, and that is what they do, I believe. But politically, since the collapse of the economic bubble, it's been 30 years. Then low prices and wages and growth continued for a long time indeed. Then the prices didn't grow. The so-called deflationary mindset existed in Japan for a long time. As a result, then companies put their first priority to cost cut, such as investment and labor cost. And that is the economic situation that we found ourselves. Small investment undermines the foundation of innovation. Then the productivity will deteriorate. A cut in the labor cost will delay the accumulation of the human capitals. All the skills and business models are hindered by those situations. We have to move out such a situation so that we can realize the good cycle of profit distribution growth, and we can eradicate deflationary sentiment in Japan, and to bring Japan to a new stage of economic growth. And that is what I mean by a complete departure from deflation as a political standpoint. And there are some good signs, and silver lining on the cloud. Then this is an opportunity coming for the first time in 30 years to overcome deflation completely. Then we take advantage of the opportunity, then we will never go back to the past. And this is the reason for the existence of Kishida administration. A judgment in terms of macroeconomic analysis and political judgment, and both of them, as I said, this is what I have in mind and concerning the question that we have asked.
Now we will have another question from Nishinihon newspaper. I'm Kuroishi from Nishinihon newspaper. Let me ask about the by-elections taking place in April. As of today, LDP has not fielded the candidates for Nagasaki number 3 constituency and Tokyo 15 constituency. In the local areas, there are opinions that the LDP should focus on the political reform and economic reform, and as ruling parties, they should send the strong message. Do you have any plan as a president of the party to field the candidates for these 2 constituencies? And if LDP loses the by-elections for 3 elections in a row, and there are some opinion that there may be movement to dethrone the President Kishida. And what is the position of the by-election, and what will be the tactics for the election? And are you going to aim at 3 winning, or are you only aim at the 2 wins? So what will be a threshold of winning and losing? And there are some speculation to really dissolve the lower house before the by-election. Are there any options not to enter by-election, but to dissolve the lower house? Thank you for asking a number of questions. Your question about the threshold of winning and losing. For the line or threshold for the 2 constituencies, we are still considering what to do with the candidates for these two constituencies. What kind of the campaign should be prepared are under coordination. So it is still under coordination. So at this point, it is difficult to really talk about what will be specific line between winning and losing. After the preparation, we will be thinking about the threshold of winning and losing. And your question about what will be the message that we are going to focus on for these by-elections, 3 by-elections, a political situation and its development leading up to the election and local status, and they are all different for these constituencies. So it will be impacted by the political situation. As a LDP, as a ruling party, we will be entering the campaign. That will be very important opportunity to send the message as the party. So that is what we are thinking. We understand that we are hearing very harsh opinions from the public, and we are aware of that. But we make sure we make our case during the campaign. For instance, restoring the trust for the politics and reform of the LDP, they have to be very clear. And as I mentioned, economic recovery has to be felt among the public. In order to make it happen, we have to really make our case, and also disasters and also severe international status to protect lives and livelihood. Which one is the party that have the capability for execution? It is LDP, it is the Komeito party. These are the message that we are sending. And also your question about dissolution of the House. As I have been saying in multiple occasions, there are challenges to restore the trust of the public toward the politics, wage increase, economic recovery. These are the challenges that cannot be deferred. We are focusing on these challenges. These are the only things that we are thinking as of today, and this determination remains unchanged.
We'd like to take questions from other reporters here. In case you have a question, please raise a hand. And please ask only one question. Morifuji from Yomiuri, thank you. Can I ask a question about the violation of the Political Fund Control Act of the LDP's factions? Prime Minister himself spent 2 days to question the key members of Abe faction of the LDP. Then former Prime Minister Abe ordered the termination of the kickbacks, but after he died, the key members didn't follow his instruction. Then what do you think about their political and moral responsibilities? Then including the disciplinary action on the circulation of the fund as I was taking out, and then also the members of the Abe faction, the Nikai faction, then what is the scope of the disciplinary action to them? And then what is the difference of political and moral responsibility in terms of the faction? Then when the parties and discipline, the committee is going to be held, then please let me know your ideas. The LDP executive branch has been questioning other members of the Abe faction, and it is going on. Then LDP executive branch is considering doing another questioning, and if possible, next week, we'd like to proceed with the process to do disciplinary action to related direct members of the LDP. The background of the circulation of the fund on the kickbacks, and you have asked a question on the topic. Right now, LDP is carrying out questioning of related members, because I'm carrying out the questioning, I'd like to refrain from making comment in my capacity. With that in mind, how those Diet members should fulfill their political responsibilities, and this is what you mentioned in your question. Then the police investigation was done, so there is a conclusion about the criminal responsibility of those Diet members. But those members are politicians, so they have both political and moral responsibilities, and a judgment has to be made on those responsibilities. When making such a judgment, as I said many times to date, the amount of unreported fund as a politician, how they fulfill their responsibility, the history of the Diet members and how they fulfilled the responsibility of explanation, how they try to restore the trust from the people. Those factors will be considered comprehensively. Then when we make a judgment, the LDP discipline committee and other organizations will go through discussions. I'd like to take a tough response to that matter. Thank you. And then Mr. Nagatsuki from Kyoto, then please go ahead.
This is Kyoto Tsushin. Let me ask about abduction issue of Japanese people. In order to resolve the abduction issue, you have been saying that you are aiming at the leaders' meeting with Kim Jong-un, but North Korea has been saying that this issue has been already resolved. Even if there's a leaders' meeting, it is difficult to resolve the abduction issue, as some say. So you are aiming at the leaders' meeting between Japan and North Korea. Are you aiming at the return of the abductees, or are you aiming at opening of the negotiation? What is your idea as the Prime Minister? We refrain from making comments about individual announcements made by North Korea. But between Japan and North Korea, realizing fruitful relation is something that makes sense for the interests of Japan and North Korea, and that will be conducive to the regional peace and stability. This is my idea, and this remains unchanged. Between Japan and North Korea, we have multiple issues. We would like to make efforts to resolve them. And you mentioned the immediate return of abductees, or we are aiming at the starting of the negotiation. So your question was about a very specific method, but we have the other party. And Japan has the basic policy to resolve the issues. In order to resolve them at the high level, right under my leadership, we are making efforts. As we do that, including abduction issue, we have multiple issues we would like to make a progress. It is my strong determination. Now we are taking question from Sugiyama from Reuters.
Thank you. This is Sugiyama from Reuters. Can I ask a question about the currencies and then financial policies, the monetary policies? The Bank of Japan lifted its negative interest rate policy and gave momentum to the yen's depreciation. And then the dollar-yen level that became to the last market intervention. The yen's depreciation can support the company's performance and then create an extra capacity for shareholder returns and wage hikes. And do you believe that the government should take measures to stem the yen's depreciation? Prime Minister Kishida, talking about the monetary policies of Bank of Japan, then you said that it is appropriate to maintain the easy money environment. The monetary policy in the hands of the Bank of Japan. but the good cycle of wages and prices, and to create a situation that no deflation then will be back again. So to make it happen, do you expect that Bank of Japan will give a very careful consideration to additional interest rate hike? You asked a question about the market intervention in currency market. It's a matter of course that I'd like to refrain from talking about and what I have in mind, because it might have an impact on the market. Anyhow, the currency market should reflect the economic fundamentals of various nations. The movement of currencies counts quite a lot, I believe. At least excessive volatility in the currency market is not something we hope or desire. Government has a very high sense of urgency looking at what's happening in the currency market. But excessive movement, when it happens, then we have to carry out all the possible measures to deal with the excessive volatility in the currency market. This is the basic stance of the government. You asked a question about the government and the Bank of Japan relationship. I had a meeting of the BOJ governor. At that time, the Bank of Japan has maintained unprecedented easy money policy for more than 10 years. Then to make a step forward into a new stage, that is the first topic. And second, then we have to take advantage of the positive economic movement, then the easy financial monetary environment will be maintained to make it a reality. The Bank of Japan has made an announcement of two matters at the same time. I believe this is an appropriate measure for the Bank of Japan. That is what I've said. Whether there is expectation for the additional interest rate increase by the Bank of Japan, I think I'd like to refrain from talking about that as well. Anyhow, the government is going to work hand in glove with the Bank of Japan. As I said, a complete departure from deflation to bring the Japanese economy into a new type of growth-oriented economy. To make it happen, we are facing a crunch time to end the deflationary spiral. The government then would like to put out all the stops to end the deflation. Then I hope the Bank of Japan will work hand in hand with the government on those matters, and that is my expectation towards the Bank of Japan.
Kawanishi-san.
Now we are taking a question from Mr. Kawanishi from TBS. This is Kawanishi from TBS. Let me ask about political fund. First of all, during interviews we are hearing, we are not sure how the former Prime Minister Mori is handled, and Mr. Nikai, the former Secretary General, and you are not subject to the hearing. Are there any specific disciplinary actions? Have you decided what disciplinary actions will be taken? You said that you are not thinking about the dissolution before disciplinary actions. That's what you said during the diet. So the revision of the political fund control law is going to be the main topic. Can you still say there will be no dissolution before the revision? Your first part of the question, we are conducting additional questioning as the LDP. As we make a judgment on political responsibility, as we see the questions from the public, and also at the diet, and there has been a lot of the discussions about the committee and the political ethics hearing committee. And before making a judgment about the political responsibility, we are interviewing the people who have been involved. This is the intention of the hearing. And who will be subject to the hearing and who will be summoned to the hearing. For those items, we do not disclose them, and we have been conducting a hearing. As we make a decision about the responsibility for the politics, if necessary, those hearings will take place. This is what we are thinking right now. And who will be subject to that? That is based on our idea that we have today. And your question about the disciplinary actions, if we have already made up my mind, no, we have not made any decisions. As we make a judgment for political responsibility, we are conducting the hearings, and after that hearings, there will be a decision for the responsibility. About the decision and the disciplinary actions will be decided going forward. And your question about the dissolution, a political fund control law during the Diet session will be handled. We do have a strong determination, and that's what I have been saying. When it comes to dissolution, I am not thinking about anything about the dissolution. This is what I have already said. To restore trust, this is one of the challenges that cannot be deferred, and we are focusing on these challenges.
Mr. Uchiyama from Shinano Mainichi, please go ahead. This is Uchiyama from Shinano Mainichi. The MIC in 2023, the last year's demographic survey was announced and report was made by MIC. There is a concentration of various capacities to Tokyo, and once it's going on, then it's being accelerated. From the local cities of Japan, then young people, then women, then the foreign workers are leaving local cities and Japan to Tokyo. I believe that the local towns and cities are the foundation of Japan. The government are very strong and comprehensive policy to take advantage of the rural local cities, regions in Japan. I wonder if governments have such an idea. In my administration, the digital garden city nation and the vision, through that vision, and people across the nation can live very comfortable and convenient life in various parts of Japan. To realize such a society, the excessive concentration of various functions to Tokyo region then should be rectified. We believe that's quite an important initiative for the government, in my understanding, to make it happen. The vision for a digital garden city nation and to realize growth from the rural cities and local cities, the migration to the local areas and migration of companies to the local areas, and based on the digital garden city nation grants and regional creation, remote work, and migration without changing jobs, and maintenance, and then the establishing the regional traffic networks, and tourism promotion, including inbound tourists. And government has taken various measures to activate the flow of people into local cities of Japan. Government has various assistance package to promote investment and from the Japanese and foreign companies into the local cities, including semiconductor industry. And we have a migration support to young people is in place. Young people going to Tokyo from the local cities. We pay the transportation costs for those young people coming to Tokyo so that they would like to create a flow of young people going back to their hometowns And when they find jobs in their hometowns, then we give financial support and to move from Tokyo to various parts of Japan. Those are the ideas on the radar screen of the government. Through those initiatives, as a whole, we like to create the inflows and flows of people from Tokyo to rural cities, and we can restore the vitality of the local cities. And that is what the current government has done so far. Thank you.
Now we take a question from Fuji TV. This is Sejima from Fuji TV. Let me ask about your visit to the US as a state guest. During the visit, there will be the summit meeting, and you are going to address to the Congress. What will be focus? How are you going to make your case as the Prime Minister? And there are planned summit meeting among Japan, the US, and Philippines. How are you going to aim at enhanced collaboration against China? And you are going to visit the US, as we see that as there are speculation about the scenario of what if former President Trump wins the election, and how are you going to address that? During my visit in the US, I'm going to address to the Congress, and there are summit meeting among Japan, the US, and the Philippines. For these plans, we are making a preparation. Your question about the election in the US. Regardless of the possible result of the election in the US, the international society is facing complicated and a number of challenges. It is more important to have more robust solidarity between Japan and the US. As I visit the US, it's going to be very meaningful to deepen the collaboration between Japan and the US and show a resilient alliance, as international society is entering a very important watershed moment in a historic manner to really maintain and strengthen rule of law-based international order, and to realize free and open Indo-Pacific. The enhanced collaboration between Japan, the US, and the Philippines will be very important initiative. And if I make comments in relation with the election, there is the bipartisan idea. Japan, a US ally, is important in relation with the international society, including economy. Relationship between Japan and the US is critical. It is the common idea as a bipartisan idea, and such an idea is strengthening. I am determined to say that the scenario, what if former President Trump wins the election, regardless of the election, significance of Japan and the US will be demonstrated to the world, and that will be very important, I think. And that is all.
Mr. Tanabe from Mainichi, please go ahead. This is Tanabe from Mainichi. Can I ask a question about the imperial succession? How the imperial succession should be carried out? And the discussion is going to diet, I believe, but still we have seen good progress on the matter. We are racing against the time about the imperial succession. Then what's your take on the current situation? Then Prime Minister Kishida, some time ago, how the imperial succession should be carried out? The other than you said the female emperors, and do you have such an idea? Then what is the reason for you to mention that? First off, imperial succession. There is a special law. Then there are supplementary resolutions on the imperial house law. Then there are challenges, issues mentioned in supplementary resolutions. The government gave a report to the upper house president, lower house speaker, and consultation is going on the topic right now. In the capacity of Prime Minister, I'd like to refrain from disclosing my ideas on this matter in the capacity of Prime Minister of Japan. I don't think it is a good time for me to do that. But I am the LDP president at the same time. With that capacity, if I may, within my LDP, I set up a conference directly reporting to the president. Then this year, the discussion is going on. On that matter, the LDP would and should like to lead the discussion, and then we are trying very hard to make it happen. The other day, we had the LDP party convention the other day, that we came up with the movement policy for 2024. It is clearly mentioned in the policy that the ruling parties and LDP are the party to take responsibility and like to make a contribution to the discussions and about stable imperial succession. The LDP would like to expand and deepen its discussion on the matter. Thank you.
We are taking last two questions. Mr. Akiyama from Nikkei. Akiyama from Nikkei. Let me ask about the fiscal policies. The primary balance in the growth realization case, the estimate is the negative 1.3 trillion yen in fiscal 2025. You have been mentioning that in fiscal 2025, primary balance for national and local the level can be positive. Do you think it can be still positive in order to make up for the deficit? What measures are you going to take? And if this target can be achieved, what will be the target for fiscal policies after fiscal 2026? January this year, there was the midterm and long-term estimate. With the high level of the growth driven by private demand, if we continue the reform of expenditure, the primary balance can be positive in fiscal 2025, combining national and local level. We are aware of the estimate, so I made a comment based on the estimate. I said that to realize the growth driven by the demand by the private sector, we have to make an effort to reform expenditure. We invest in people and labor, trilateral labor market reform and transition from non-regular to regular workers and promotion of R&D investment. These are the efforts we have to make to improve productivity. And efforts to reform expenditure will continue, so the structure of expenditure can be normalized. We continue these efforts. What we have to do first is to restore the economy, and we make efforts for fiscal soundness. This is what we are doing. You asked a question about our target in 2026 onward. At this point, nothing is decided. As I said earlier, fiscal year 2025, a positive primary balance can be achieved. We make efforts, and for fiscal year 2026 onward, we would like to think about the target as a government going forward.
And this is Jimbo. And just now, Prime Minister Kishida, you mentioned the revision of Political Fund Control Act. then even though you try to strengthen that law, but as long as you keep the current measure to disclose that information of the political fund and expenditure and income, the report, it is almost impossible to have accurate confirmation. The content is available on the web. Then there are the hundreds of thousands of the pages, and they are available in PDF, and they are not prepared in data. And then Professor Kamiwaki spent a long time. Then he scrutinized the information on the reports, and then the sellers of party tickets and buyers of society tickets, and he started criminal charges, and that is the start of what's going on right now. But he's had to spend really a long time indeed on that matter. I believe that as one of the advanced nations in the world, and the disclosure, the method of the political fund is very shameful indeed, and then it is not available on the data, and the disclosure of the report is not good enough. And what you think about current situation, the submission to the MIC, as long as Prime Minister Kishida gives an instruction to MIC, then the digitalization of data is possible. And Mr. Kono is the data minister, and he's suffering a lot. And as long as you give an instruction to MIC to make electronic data of the report, then that can be done. If you don't do that, even though you enhance laws, then nobody is able to check whether the laws are respected or not. The first question is your idea of the current situation. The second question, you don't have to revise that law and to make a digitalization of the information, whether you have an intention to give instruction or do you have intention to give an instruction to the MIC minister on the digitalization of the political fund reports. The Japan's political fund, how the political fund should be, then you said that it is shameful, the current status is shameful for as an advanced nation. The government and to MIC, then political organizations, then we then give reports on political funds. The election campaign office and MIC, nominal management is done by those entities, and there is a situation. And some of the foreign countries on political activities, the actual management is carried out, and necessarily investigations carried out, and some organizations have those very strong capacities and authorities to carry out investigation in political funds, which is better between Japan and those nations. In a democratic nation, political activities and politicians' activities count quite a lot. Then to those political activities, whether the government authorities should have intervention on those political activities, and such a system is established in a balance between the two. The freedom of political activity should be respected, or government and the government investigation and government management is quite important. Each system is established in various nations based on the balance that I've mentioned. But as I said, then if data, the information is digitalized, then transparency can be maintained. Even though that is something nominal, but you can have a very accurate, more transparent management of information of political funds. That is a matter, I believe, of great importance. Therefore, about the revision of Political Fund Control Act, the LDP established a working group. In the discussion, then there are 3 important points mentioned in the discussion working group. One of them is that to improve the transparency of the fund flow and through digitalization of information. Then there is an interim report and LDP, the Political Innovation Headquarters. Through digitalization, the transparency of the information about political funds is clearly mentioned in the policy of the LDP. With that in mind, the Political Fund Control Act should be considered. Then government will think about what we can do about that law. Then I believe that is the way for us to go in the Political Fund Control Act. I know that some reporters are raising their hand, and please forward your questions by email by the end of today, so that we will give response to your questions in case those questions are sent by email. Thank you.